Okay, so I'm pretty sure the quarterback audio visual stuff didn't necessarily match up very good, so I hope it works better this time. I was messing with it a lot. But yeah, let's get started here. This is going to be my wide receiver rankings for the 2024 season. These are my preseason rankings. These are a projection for the upcoming season, so don't get too upset, about last year's stats and stuff. So getting started, we will have 10 honorable mentions, being Justin Watson, De'Ami Brown, Quentin Johnston, Ray McLeod, Trey Tucker, Mac Hollins, Nelson Aguilar, Juwan Jennings, Cedric Wilson, and Darius Slayton. So we will have 100 players here, so I'm not going to talk too much about a lot of these guys. I'll probably put some cards here in the video for each level of 25, because you might not want to listen to receivers 100 through 50, but I'm going to include them, just not talk a whole lot about them. So 100 will be Devin Duvernay of the Jaguars. 99 will be Troy Franklin, a rookie for the Broncos. I think he'll be pretty solid. 98 will be Treylon Burks. He's wide receiver 4 for Tennessee. Still think he can have a good, solid season here. 97, Andre Isabis. I don't know how to say that name, but he's supposed to be wide receiver 3/4 for the Bengals. I think he'll be a good receiver, right? At least a decent receiver for them. 96 is Malachi Corley, the rookie for the Jets. He could be a good receiver for them. 95 will be John Mechie for the Texans, wide receiver 4. I think he'd be a really good wide receiver 4. 94 is Khalif Raymond for the Lions. I believe he's wide receiver 2, maybe actually, or 3. Jameson Williams is probably wide receiver 2, and then he is wide receiver 3. 93 is going to be McCole Hardman. He's probably like wide receiver 5 or 6 for Kansas City, but Kansas City does utilize quite a bit of receivers, so that's why he's going to be here on this list. 92 will be Josh Palmer. I don't really know what to think about the Chargers wide receivers, but I think Palmer will be, okay, just nothing real special. 91 will be Velus Jones Jr. for the Bears. He's listed as wide receiver. He's been a running back all preseason. It was amazing all preseason as a running back, but he's listed on the depth chart as a wide receiver, so I'm going to include him on the wide receiver ranking. I think he could get some decent work in this season. Number 90 is going to be Van Jefferson, wide receiver 3 here for the Steelers, maybe wide receiver 4. They got Cordero Patterson as well. 89 is going to be Xavier Legette for the Panthers. He's a rookie. I think he could be solid. 88 is going to be Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver 3 for the Rams. He's pretty good physical catch guy. 87 is Greg Dortch for the Cardinals. He's going to probably be a little bit worse than last year just because they got Marvin Harrison Jr. now, but he's still a good wide receiver 3. Number 86 is going to be Jermaine Burton. I think he'll probably be wide receiver 3 for Cincinnati over the Andre, that guy. I don't know how to say his last name, but I think Jermaine Burton's looked really good in preseason. He could be a good receiver 3 for the Bengals. 85 is going to be Devontae Walker from UNC for Baltimore. He could be a good wide receiver 3 for them. 84 is Kevontae Turpin. He's going to be probably wide receiver 3 here for Dallas. He hasn't got a whole lot of work in as an actual receiver. He's basically been getting a couple plays a game as receiver/running back, and then being a return specialist. I think he could have an actual role here on the offensive end now. 83 is Allen Lazard. He should be better this year with Aaron Rodgers. 82 is going to be Romeo Doubs. I think he's the worst of the top 3 guys for Green Bay with Christian Watson and Jaden Reed. 81 is going to be Rashad Bateman as wide receiver 2 for the Ravens. He's good, nothing too special. 80 is going to be Rashid Shaheed. I think he'll actually be wide receiver 3. I think he's listed as number 2. I think A.T. Perry will probably be a little bit better than him this year. Number 79 is Jalen McMillan, wide receiver 3 for the Bucs. He's a rookie out of Washington. He was really good at Washington. I think he could be a really good wide receiver 3 here for the Bucs. 78 is Alec Pierce. I think he's wide receiver 3 here for the Colts after Pittman and Josh Downs. He's a pretty good wide receiver 3 for sure. 77 is Juju Smith-Schuster. He's probably wide receiver 4 here for Kansas City, but he could definitely be a good wide receiver 4. I think he's going to get a lot of red zone targets. Probably come in for Xavier Worthy in the red zone because he's a bigger guy, physical catch type of guy, and Xavier Worthy not going to be a real good threat in the red zone. 76 is Josh Reynolds. He's going to be wide receiver 2 actually this year for the Broncos. I think he'd be a good solid wide receiver 2. 75 is going to be Elijah Moore. He's probably wide receiver 3 now for for the Browns because they do got Jerry Jeudy over him, but I think he'll be a good wide receiver 3. 74 is Brian Thomas for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's wide receiver 3 for them out of LSU. I think he's going to be a really good rookie this year. 73 is Jalen Hyatt, so second-year guy here out of Tennessee. Wide receiver 2 for them actually this year, probably just after Malik Neighbors. So even he's a good wide receiver, I think, but having Daniel Jones as his quarterback definitely hurts him. I forgot to mention that kind of their scenarios that they are in with their quarterback and their being wide receiver 2/3 on their team definitely plays a big part, because there's guys like the Chargers wide receiver 1 who's going to be a lot higher on this list than he would be if he was on the say the Eagles, because the wide receiver 1 for the Chargers is probably wide receiver 4 or 3 on the Eagles. 72 is going to be Khalil Shakir for the Buffalo Bills. He's probably wide receiver 3 in my opinion after Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel, probably even wide receiver 4 after MVS, honestly. But all those guys are kind of, going to be close to the same, besides who I think is the number 1, but I'll get to that later. Number 71 is Calvin Austin, wide receiver 2 for Pittsburgh. He could be pretty solid here as well. Should have a much improved year this year from last year, because he is going to be wide receiver 2 now. Number 70 is Adonai Mitchell for the Colts. I said that Alec Pierce was the 3 for the Colts. Adonai Mitchell might be the 3. I think he'll be a little bit better than Alec Pierce. I think he'll be a good rookie for them. 69 is going to be A.T. Perry, who's I think is going to be the wide receiver 2 here for the Saints. He was good last year in his limited time that he did get. Number 68 is Luke McCaffrey for the Washington Commanders. He's probably their wide receiver 3 right now. Terry McLaurin. Actually, he might honestly be wide receiver 2 because they just got rid of Jahan Dotson as well. I think he's going to be a really good surprise rookie, because I think he was 6th or 7th round draft pick, and he has potential to be a wide receiver 2 for his team. 67 is going to be Adam Thielen. I think he'll definitely have a worse year than last year. Last year, he was the number 1 receiver for a rookie quarterback who had nobody else to throw the ball to. So now he's probably going to be wide receiver 2. They got Deontay Johnson as well, so he's going to take a bit of a dip, I think, but still be a solid wide receiver. Number 66 is Christian Watson, who I think is number 2 here in Green Bay. He's a good receiver, but nothing too special. 65 is Jalen Polk. Patriots receivers, I think, are all kind of in the same boat. KJ Osborne, Jalen Polk, Kendrick Bourne. All 3 of those guys are kind of in the same realm. I think Jalen Polk is going to have a really good rookie season here. I believe he was out of Washington as well. 64 is going to be Kendrick Bourne, who's supposed to miss the first 4 or so games, come back in week 5. I think it'll be really good once he does come back. But part of why Jalen Polk is, I think higher on this list than he should be is that he's going to probably be wide receiver 2 for the first month of the season, and that's going to help him, kind of get some more targets once Kendrick Bourne also comes back. 63, I think MVS for the Bills is going to be a pretty good receiver for them for sure. Number 62 is going to be Josh Downs here for the Colts. I think he'll be a good receiver there. Him and Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce. Honestly, all 3 of those could be anywhere from receiver 2 to receiver 4. I just think personally Josh Downs will probably be receiver 2. 61, Jahan Dotson for the Eagles. There's not even a picture of him on the Eagles because it is he just got traded there like a few days ago. So I don't have a picture of him on the actual Eagles, but he's going to be a really good wide receiver 3 for Philadelphia. Number 60 is JSN in Seattle. I think he'll be a really solid wide receiver 3 for them. He was a really good wide receiver 3 as a rookie last year. No reason he won't be as a year 2 guy. Number 59 here is going to be Marvin Mims for the Denver Broncos. I think he's probably going to be wide receiver. He actually might be wide receiver 2. I think I did say Josh Reynolds was wide receiver 2. I forgot about Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is going to be a really good receiver this year, I think. Number 58 is going to be Rome Odunze as wide receiver 3 in Chicago. Obviously, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are ahead of him, but he's going to be a really good wide receiver 3, I think, this year. 57, Ladd McConkey. He's going to be wide receiver for the Chargers. I don't know who's number 1, 2, 3, 4. It really doesn't matter. I think Ladd McConkey is going to be a really big target here for Justin Herbert. Number 56 is KJ Osborne. I think he's wide receiver 1 for the Patriots. He's pretty good. Certainly is going to be wide receiver 1 the first month or so because Kendrick Bourne is out. I think he's going to be solid, but nothing too special, but probably better than he was last year because now he is wide receiver 1. 55, Michael Wilson for Arizona. He was number 1 receiver last year, probably demoted to 2 now because of Marvin Harrison, but he's going to be a really solid wide receiver 2. Number 54, I got Darnell Mooney as wide receiver 2 in Atlanta. I think he'll be pretty solid this year with Kirk Cousins. Number 53 is going to be Jameson Williams as wide receiver 2 in Detroit. I think he's going to have a really good year. He didn't play a lot, I think, last year. I can't remember. I think this is his 3rd year in the league, but last year I think he was wide receiver 3, so he didn't get a whole lot of time, but I think he'll be better this year for sure. 52 is going to be Jaden Reed, who I think is wide receiver 1 in Green Bay. All of them Green Bay wide receivers are all, I think, good. None of them are too great, but I think Jaden Reed is by far the best out of all 3 of them. 51, I think, is Xavier Worthy as wide receiver 3 in Kansas City. He definitely could be really, really good and even be up to wide receiver 1 if his speed is just that dynamic that he's always burning players. But I think he'll probably be wide receiver 3. Have a really good year, but nothing like crazy. Number 50, you got Tyler Boyd as wide receiver 3 in Tennessee. I mean, he's an amazing wide receiver 3. As long as Will Levis is a good quarterback, Tyler Boyd should have a really good year. 49, I got DJ Chark. I think he's probably wide receiver 1 here in LA, and he's going to have a really good year. I think, as a wide receiver 1, as opposed to a wide receiver 2 or 3 where he was last year in Carolina. Number 48 is Deontay Johnson as the new number 1 in Carolina. He's going to have a good year, I think. Maybe not too much better than he was last year, because as a wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh last year, still got a pretty good year, and now as a wide receiver 1, but he does have Bryce Young as his quarterback, so we'll see how that works out for him. 47 is going to be Hollywood Brown. He's supposed to come back for week 2 or 3. His initial injury, he hurt it on like the very first play of preseason. Initially, they thought he could miss a couple months, but he's only supposed to miss, about 1 to 2 games, so that's really good. But I think he's going to be wide receiver 2 here in Kansas City. He should be really good for them. 46 is Malik Nabers as wide receiver 1 in New York. I think he's going to be a really, really talented guy, but having Daniel Jones as his quarterback definitely is going to hurt him a few spots here for sure. 45 is going to be Jacoby Myers as wide receiver 2 in Vegas. He's a really good wide receiver 2. As long as Gardner Minshew is a solid quarterback, Jacoby Myers should have a really good year this year. 44, Jerry Jeudy in Cleveland. He might have a better year this year than wide receiver 2. Deshaun Watson, not the best quarterback, but overall, I think Jerry Jeudy will be a really, really good wide receiver 2 here. 43, Christian Kirk. I do believe he's wide receiver 1 now in Jacksonville. Maybe him and Gabe Davis kind of right in the same realm, but he should have a really solid year this year. 42 is going to be Curtis Samuel, who I think is going to be wide receiver 2 here in Buffalo. He's going to have probably a better year this year than he was as a 3 in Washington last season, but I think he's going to be a really good receiver here for Josh Allen. Number 41 is going to be Jordan Addison as wide receiver 2 in Minnesota. He had a really good rookie year. He was wide receiver 3 for a lot of his rookie year behind KJ Osborne, but once Jettis got hurt, he was up to wide receiver 2 and maybe even wide receiver 1 because he was doing so good, at points in that season. But he's going to be wide receiver 2 all year long now, but he does, have Sam Darnold instead of Kirk Cousins. Number 40, going to be Rashee Rice, wide receiver 1 in Kansas City. There's no elite receivers in Kansas City, but they got a lot of guys that are pretty good. 39, going to be Gabe Davis, so I do think he's going to be wide receiver 1 over Christian Kirk, but just by a little bit. Those guys are going to be kind of neck and neck, I think. Not too much separating both of those. Christian Kirk very well could be wide receiver 1 just because of the chemistry he has with Trevor Lawrence, but Gabe Davis, I think, is going to be pretty good as well. Number 38 is going to be Zay Flowers as wide receiver 1 here in Baltimore. He's a good receiver, nothing too great, not going to be one of the best receivers in the league, but he certainly has the trajectory to be a top, 25 wide receiver by next season if he has another, good season, really good season this year, and can kind of develop quite a bit. Number 37 is going to be Mike Williams as wide receiver 2 in the New York Jets. Him having, Aaron Rodgers is going to have a similar season as he had the last couple of years as long as he can stay healthy. Number 36 is Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay as wide receiver 2. Might take a little bit of a step back from what he was last year. He's getting up there in age, but overall, I think he's going to have a pretty solid year as well with Baker Mayfield again in Tampa Bay. 35, I got Drake London as wide receiver 1 in Atlanta. And having Kirk Cousins definitely should be an upgrade over, his quarterbacks he's had the last couple of years with Desmond Ridder / Taylor Heineke and stuff, but he should be a really, really good wide receiver 1. But not, still not an elite wide receiver, but he's getting up there. Number 34 is going to be Chris Olave for New Orleans. I feel like Chris Olave, kind of in the same way as Drake London. I think those guys are really, really good wide receivers. I just think there is a lot of really, really good wide receivers in this league. So I don't think these guys are quite to that elite status, but both of them are really, really close. Number 33 is a guy like Courtland Sutton, wide receiver 1 in Denver. He's a really good wide receiver, right? And having Bo Nix, he's going to be very, very important for Bo Nix. All he has to do, is be open, make those physical catches. He could have 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season easily here with Denver. Number 32 is going to be Calvin Ridley as wide receiver 2 in Tennessee. He was really good as a 1 last year in Jacksonville. If he can be, really good this year as well in Tennessee, I don't see any reason why he can't be. Number 31, Brandon Cooks is wide receiver 2 in Dallas. He's really good. Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback, and Brandon Cooks got an even bigger role this year because they do not have. I can't think of who their third wide receiver was last year that they had, but they do not have him. So Brandon Cooks even going to have a bigger role than he did last year. Number 30 is going to be Keon Coleman. I think he's going to be wide receiver 1 in Buffalo. I think he is going to have an amazing, amazing rookie season. This could be a hot take. I don't really know what the general consensus on the Bills wide receiver room is about who's going to be the 1, 2, 3. But I think Keon Coleman is going to be an amazing wide receiver here in year 1. Number 29, Marvin Harrison. I think he's going to be the best rookie wide receiver in the league with Kyler Murray here in Arizona. He should be amazing. There's no reason Marvin Harrison does not have 1,000 yards receiving here in his rookie year. Number 28 is going to be Tyler Lockett as wide receiver 2 in Seattle. He's a really, really good receiver, in my opinion. Some people might have him a little bit lower. I mean, in my fantasy draft, I got him in the last round of a 10-person fantasy league. So that surprised me that a lot of people do not have him so high. His projections and stuff are pretty low too. So it's not just like the people in my league were being stupid. That's like the consensus for a lot of people on Tyler Lockett. I still think he's a really, really good wide receiver. Number 27, Michael Pittman, wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis. If Anthony Richardson can play really good, Michael Pittman should easily have 1,000 yards and even 10 touchdowns as well this year. Number 26, Stephon Diggs. Personally, right, they got the Texans have 3 receivers: Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. All 3 of them, I think, are really, really, really good wide receivers. So don't hate on me, but I think Stephon Diggs is going to be the worst of those 3. You can really put them in any order, and I'm not upset. But personally, I think Stephon Diggs is going to be the worst of those 3 receivers. Number 25, I think it's going to be Nico Collins. I think he's going to be slightly better than Stephon Diggs, but still only the 2nd best receiver on their own team. Number 24 is going to be Cooper Kupp. I think he's certainly the wide receiver 2 in LA now behind Puka Nacua. Last year, it was a debate. Puka was even better than him last year, so there's no reason why Cooper Kupp's going to be any better than Puka this year, but Cooper Kupp is still a very, very good wide receiver. Number 23 is going to be Devontae Smith, one of the best wide receiver 2s in the entire league. I mean, so is Cooper Kupp. We're getting to that point where some of these guys are elite, top-tier wide receiver 2s, and some of these guys are just really, really good wide receiver 1s. Devontae Smith, probably top 3 wide receiver 2 in the league. Number 22 is going to be Tank Dell. I think it's going to be wide receiver 1 in Houston over Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. You can hate on that all you want. I don't really care, but I think he's going to be amazing. Number 21, T. Higgins, wide receiver 2 here in Cincinnati. He is absolutely amazing as a wide receiver 2. He could easily have 1,000 yards receiving here. I would not be surprised at all. Number 20, Keenan Allen, probably wide receiver 2 here in Chicago behind DJ Moore, but he's an elite wide receiver 2 as long as he can stay healthy. He's definitely had health concerns, in the past, but if he can stay healthy, he's going to be really good wide receiver here in Chicago. Number 19, Amari Cooper's wide receiver 1 here in Cleveland. He does have Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. Not a very good quarterback, but he should still go for 1,000+ yards this year easily. Number 18, Puka Nacua. I think he's certainly wide receiver 1 in LA. He's not going to have as good of a season as he did last year, in my personal opinion, because I think he's going to be guarded by a lot of teams, top defensive backs this year. So it's going to be a little bit harder for him to get open, but still, he's an elite receiver. Number 17, DK Metcalf is wide receiver 1 here in Seattle for sure. He's just an absolute beast. He is a monster. I think he'll go for, probably 1,200 or so yards with like 8 to 10 touchdowns, fairly easily as well. Number 16, Mike Evans in Tampa Bay. He's been one of the best wide receivers over the last decade, legitimately. He has I think it was like 7 or 8. I don't remember the exact number, but he's at 1,000 yards receiving for a lot of years in a row. I do expect him to continue that this year. Number 15, Deebo Samuel. I think he's wide receiver 2 here with San Francisco. He's certainly very close with Brandon Ayuk, and he has some rushing ability that Brandon Ayuk does not have. He's an elite wide receiver, even though I think he is wide receiver 2. Number 14, DJ Moore, wide receiver 1 here in Chicago. He was probably top 5 receiver in the league last year. I think he's going to be worse this year, even though he probably has a better quarterback. It's just that he has a way better competition in his receiving room, that he's not going to have quite as good of a year individually as he had last season. Number 13 is going to be George Pickens. I think he's going to have a massive year this year. He could, I think, go for 1,500 yards this year. I would not be too surprised about that at all. I think he is a legitimate dog. And no Deontay Johnson this year means he is clear-cut the guy that they're going to go to a lot of the time, because their next best target is like Cordero Patterson or, Calvin Austin or something. So George Pickens is going to be a dog. Number 12 is going to be Brandon Ayuk here. Again, he is a dog. Him and Deebo are both amazing receivers. I think Ayuk's the one by a very small margin, but he easily should have 1,000+ yards very, very easily, getting to that point with close to 10 touchdowns as well. He's going to be an elite receiver, I think, this year. Number 11, Garrett Wilson with the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to help take Garrett Wilson to a next level. He's had Zach Wilson / bad Joe Flacco / freaking Mike White, freaking just a bunch of horrible quarterbacks for his entire career. If Aaron Rodgers can play like a decent quarterback, Garrett Wilson should have a career year by far. And he's already had good seasons. I think he's going to be elite receiver this year. Number 10 here is going to be Jalen Waddle. He's an amazing wide receiver 2, probably the best wide receiver 2 in the league. I still can't really remember what my own list is, but I think he is the last wide receiver 2 on this list. And he's amazing. He's going to go for 1,200 yards and almost 10 touchdowns, probably at least, maybe even 1,300 to 1,400 yards as a wide receiver 2. Personally, I would not be too surprised. He's just that good. He easily is a wide receiver 1 on most teams in the league. Number 9 is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's wide receiver 1 in Tennessee still. I've seen some people think Calvin Ridley is better than him, but personally, I cannot get behind that. I think he's going to have an amazing year here with Will Levis. He had a really good year last year. I think he might even have a better year, because I think Will Levis is going to be more improved. Number 8, Terry McLaurin. I still think he's a top 10 receiver in this league. He's been amazing his entire career. Last year, his quarterback's not very good. This year, I think Jaden Daniels is going to be better than his quarterbacks were last year. So because of that, I think he'll have a better year than he did. And number 8, wide receiver in the league, he should have an amazing year. 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. I think it's very doable for him. Number 7 is going to be Davante Adams. I think he, is not a top 5 receiver in the league anymore, but again, he's still right up there. You could definitely argue it. I would not be upset. Gardner Minshew is a solid quarterback, probably better than what his, Aiden O'Connell, was doing last year for him. I think Gardner Minshew is a little bit better improved. I think Davante Adams still can have an amazing year. this year. Number 6 here is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had an amazing year last year. I think he had like 1,400 yards, maybe not quite 1,500. I think he'll probably eclipse that 1,500 yards and probably have close to 15 touchdowns as well. He should be an absolute monster this year. Number 5, Ja'Marr Chase in Cincinnati. Again, if Joe Burrow can stay healthy and if Ja'Marr Chase can stay healthy, 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns is doable. I don't know if Ja'Marr Chase will get 15 touchdowns. He might get like 13, but 1,500 yards, very, very doable for Ja'Marr Chase. Number 4, A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. I mean, he was amazing last year. No reason he can't be amazing again this year as well. He is an absolute monster. Number 3, going to be CeeDee Lamb. The top 3, in my opinion, are not debatable. You can probably move them around a little bit, but they are solidified the top 3 receivers in football, no question. CeeDee Lamb, absolutely amazing. He could honestly go for 1,800 yards and like 16 touchdowns, and I would not be surprised. I think he is that good. Number 2, Tyreek Hill, again, absolutely amazing. Probably the best receiver last year because Jettis was injured, but if he goes for 2,000 yards and like 15 touchdowns, I think it's doable. I mean, he got close to 2,000 yards last year, and I think he might have an even better year this year just because he might be that determined to break that record. But I still think Justin Jefferson is better than Tyreek Hill. His quarterback situation is not that good, but I still think he is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Sam Darnold still has to get some passing yards, right? I think Jettis could have an amazing year. Maybe not quite as good as he had 2 years ago with a fully healthy Kirk Cousins, but I still think he's going to be the best wide receiver in football. So yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to check out my quarterback video if you did not watch that. And I will have a running back, tight end, record prediction, and power ranking video still coming out in the next couple of days.